Show them who you are. Chapter 1. The Invisible Man with an Expiration Date. Samuel Grant knew how to disappear. He moved through the halls of Thorn Industries like a ghost, unnoticed, unimportant, and underestimated. The mid-level manager with the rumpled shirts and quiet demeanor had become part of the office's background noise. People didn't see him. Not really. But Samuel saw everything. He saw the way senior managers passed their work off on their teams and claimed the credit. He saw how ambition turned ruthless, crushing those who dared stand in its way. And he heard the whispers, the ones about him. Why is he even here? He'll never get ahead. No ambition. He's pathetic. He didn't react. He never did. Because Samuel Grant had two secrets. One, he owned the entire company. Two, he was dying. The doctors had given him 2 years, maybe less. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. There would be no miracle treatments, no lucky breaks. Just a ticking clock, counting down. He had built Thorn Industries from nothing, a tech empire worth billions. And yet here he was, working a mid-level job because he wanted to see the truth. From this vantage point, Samuel learned more about his own company than any boardroom report could tell him. But patience only went so far. And Samuel's patience, like his time, was running out. Chapter 2. A Family Left Behind. Samuel wasn't just a CEO. He was a father, a widower, and his greatest regret wasn't his illness. It was the distance between him and his son, Ethan. Ethan Grant was 28, brilliant, driven, and frustrated. He had spent his entire life in the shadow of Samuel's success, and their relationship had frayed under the weight of that pressure. Ethan worked at Thorn Industries, but in a different department, unaware of his father's quiet infiltration. "Why don't you trust me?" Ethan had asked once, his voice sharp with hurt. "You built this company. Don't you think I want to be part of that?" Samuel hadn't answered then, but the truth gnawed at him. Ethan was his legacy, and Samuel had precious little time to prepare him for what was coming. Chapter 3. Cracks in the Mask. It started like any other day. Long hours, endless demands, and zero appreciation. Samuel kept his head down as usual, typing up reports for Rachel Miller, the senior manager who treated him like her personal assistant. "Samuel," Rachel called across the office, her voice loud and dismissive. "You think you could handle this one without messing it up?" The snickers followed, as they always did. He didn't flinch. He just took the file. But the cracks were forming. Later in the break room, he overheard Rachel again. Loud, confident, and cruel. If Samuel worked as hard as he complained, maybe he'd actually get somewhere. The laughter echoed, and this time, something shifted. Samuel walked out without a word, but in his office, his hands curled into fists. Enough. His time was too short for this. It was time. Chapter 4. The Game Begins. The next morning, Samuel arrived early, but there was something different in his step. A quiet kind of power. The invisible man was about to become very visible. He started small. When Rachel tried to dump another project on him, he handed it back. "I'm busy," he said, his voice steady. She blinked at him, stunned. But he didn't wait for her response. In meetings, he asked sharp, pointed questions, ones that made senior managers squirm. He started fixing the problems no one wanted to acknowledge, and slowly people began to notice. But Samuel wasn't done. Behind the scenes, he prepared for his final move, gathering performance reports, studying the toxic culture, and identifying the real talent within the company. Because when the moment came, he wouldn't just reveal who he was, he'd change Thorn Industries forever. Chapter 5. Ethan's Ambition. Ethan Grant wanted more. He loved the company his father built, but he was stuck in a middle management role, his ideas ignored and his potential wasted. When Samuel began shaking things up, Ethan noticed the pointed questions, the changes, and he wondered, who was this quiet, overlooked man suddenly making waves? He decided to find out. Chapter 6. The Reckoning. The annual shareholders meeting was supposed to be routine. Executives stood at the front of the conference room, boasting about numbers and progress they had little to do with. Samuel sat quietly in the back. At least that's what everyone thought. until he stood. "Excuse me," he said, his voice cutting through the room. Heads turned. Conversation stopped. Rachel's eyes narrowed. "Samuel, this isn't—" But he didn't sit down. Instead, he walked to the front, calm, collected, and dangerous. "I think it's time I introduced myself," Samuel said. Then, with a swipe of his hand, the projector screen changed, displaying just 4 words. "I am the CEO." The room froze. You could have heard a pin drop. Rachel's face drained of color. The executive stared, stunned and horrified. Samuel let the silence stretch. Then he spoke. "For years, I've watched this company from the ground up, seen how you treat people, how you take credit for others' work, how you foster a culture of fear and arrogance." His voice was steady, but there was no mistaking the steel beneath it. "That ends today." Chapter 7. The Fallout. The office was in chaos. News of Samuel's reveal spread like wildfire. Rachel tried to recover, tried to apologize, but the damage was done. The quiet man she had belittled now held her future in his hands. Samuel wasted no time. Underperforming executives were removed. Real talent was promoted. And the culture of Thorn Industries began to shift. Respect replaced fear. Collaboration replaced backstabbing. But Samuel wasn't interested in revenge. He was building something better. Chapter 8. Father and Son. It was Ethan who confronted him. "Why didn't you tell me?" his son demanded. "You let me think I had to fight my way up like a stranger." "Because I needed to see who you were without my name," Samuel said quietly. "And I needed to know you could lead with more than ambition." Ethan's anger softened. "And what did you see?" Samuel smiled. "I saw a man ready to become more." Chapter 9. The Successor. In his final months, Samuel worked harder than ever, not just for profits, not for recognition, but for the people, and for Ethan. He mentored his son, teaching him not just the business, but the heart of leadership, compassion, integrity, vision. And when the time came, he made it official. At the next board meeting, Samuel made his announcement. "My time here is ending, but my vision will continue. My son, Ethan Grant, will be the next CEO of Thorn Industries." Epilogue: The Legacy. When Samuel Grant passed away 2 years after his diagnosis, the company didn't just mourn a leader. They mourned a man who had made them better. Under Ethan's leadership, Thorn Industries thrived. The culture Samuel built endured because the people believed in it. And they believed in Ethan because Samuel had prepared him not just to lead, but to inspire. Samuel Grant had shown them who he was, and in doing so, he had shown them who they could become.